Why are you so disgusting, Renner?
Stand up to them.
Great to meet you, Albert.
Hey, actually, we talked 3 years ago, Robert. For those who
That's
want
right. On
to,
the exactly. Yeah,
so it's good seeing
glad
you
to
again.
glad to be talking to you this time about Renner.
Yes, because I gotta tell you, I watched it yesterday, and this movie floored me. Like I was not expecting one Frankie Muniz how he did in this movie, and just the twist in the story, just all together. This was like a mind blowing movie, and I absolutely loved this movie.
Man, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy to hear that. It's such a little nuance of like making sure the audience knows, doesn't know, things at the right time, and there's only a handful of characters, and so really happy to hear that you liked it.
So my first question is, how'd you get involved with the screenwriting? Like, where'd the whole story come about, and how did you get involved with screenwriting before directing it?
Yeah, so I had been looking for a project after doing Those Who Walk Away, and Jay Burnley at Slated brought it my way and said, "Look, there's this great script. I think you'd be really awesome for it." And I read it and read it again and thought, you know what, this is exceptionally interesting. And this is before AI had jettisoned. And I find a lot really interesting about AI just because there's this other human element, and we're always asking ourselves, what's the difference between the machine and the human? And there's so many little nuances within it that I thought is ripe for a lot of subject matter, and a lot of emotion. And so felt like, with a little tweaks on the script here and there, and Luke and Martin Medina did a great job in coming up with the concept and putting it upon its feet. And so we just kind of worked further to get it cinema ready. And I wanted to make sure it had a world to it. And so that was a lot of the sort of I guess cyberpunk. Really, the reference was a city in China called Guangzhou. And so it was then just kind of bringing the cinema around it, and anytime directing, having a hand in writing helps a tremendous amount.
Yeah, and I know for the longest time Frankie Muniz had gone away from acting to focus on racing, and this is one of the first new projects that he did, but he did such a phenomenal job. Like, of course, everyone's gonna know him from Malcolm in the Middle, but here he just goes a complete 180, and I loved his character. He's like he goes from this really shy type to being confident with the help of Salinas, the AI. And I think what
Yeah.
he did in this movie just was mind blowing because we get to see him, progress into someone, that he's hoping to be. And I think it works. So what was it like working with Frankie in this lead role?
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about Frankie. Talk about commitment to the role, commitment to the part. It was literally the shoot was sandwiched between his NASCAR schedule. So, he had just finished racing, showed up, just fully immersed himself, came super prepared. We found the character further, together. And it was a very kind of different style of working than on Malcolm. On Malcolm, you've got lots of cameras, uh, and on this we have one, and we have a very fast schedule. And there's a lot of really intense emotional pieces, and he was never scared to like push it to go there. And we just really developed this amazing working relationship that was quite special. And he was really generous and said, that this is one of the films he's most proud of to be a part of, and that the relationship we had between actor director was one of the best that he had on a film before. So I can't say enough good things, and it was phenomenal, and I'm sure we'll work together again.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned how well he does and how committed he was. The one scene that really got me was, you could tell he's complicated, and there's a reason for the shyness. It's when he's talking to Jamie about the Monopoly piece, and that I felt was like the heart. Like we get to know who he is. Like he had some sort of OCD or something,
Yeah,
and it really became the trigger of who he ended up becoming.
totally.
And it's like him breaking away, him having to break away from that trigger and figure it out. And I love the parts where he's just like talking to him, like the AI and him are talking at the same time, the same lines, and he's just going ballistic in front of the mirror. I just said, "Oh my God, this is what I expected from him of all people." Like he just did such a phenomenal job. Like it's showing something new, and that's what I really liked about the film.
Yeah, I think he even surprised himself. He told me at one point, he's like, I've never left set being proud of my work. And he's like, not never, but rarely. And he's like, every time I've left set, I've been so proud of the work that I've been doing, and I've known that it's been my all. And I think real audiences will really be blown away by what they see. And he's an exceptional actor, and he really locked in and did an even more exceptional performance that exceeded his and even my expectations. It's phenomenal what he was able to do in this film.
Yeah, and I also love the growing chemistry between him and Violet's character because you see like at first Jamie's really sympathetic towards him, and she starts to they have this little bond, and I just that's feel like the heart with it, but that also becomes a catalyst for something greater that happens in the film later on, I think, which is great. And in a way, it's like you think it's going to go one way, but then it goes left field into another, like something you don't expect. And I feel that was great, along with Marcia Gay Harden voicing Salinas. I mean, she did such a great job with the voicing of that AI character. It's just like, wow, like she seemed to be like a motherly figure, but at first, and I think you could tell, like with these type of films, you think it's going to go one way, but you're realizing, okay, it's going to go somewhere else. But what's going to happen? I like that the film keeps you guessing, like what's going to happen next, and that's another reason why I like the film overall.
Yeah, it's always phenomenal getting to work with these exceptionally talented actors, because they bring so much to the role and to the ideas. And Violet Bean is just so dynamic and so good with improv, and has such a fire within her that it's really just nurturing that. And Marcia is similarly exceptional, and is uh very artistic and very nuanced about her decision making, and very specific, which we talked a lot about sort of how to get through the nuance of the voice, and how to make it manipulative, and how to make it manipulative but hidden. And so at times it was motherly, at times it was something entirely different.
Yeah, and even at times, like in one part, I'm not going to reveal, but it gets a little comical in a way. That's the one scene there where the AI gets a little comical with Renner. I thought was pretty funny, and in a dark comedy kind of way, but still, I thought it was pretty funny. And I actually had me laughing at that point. I was just like, good. I feel like
Good.
it was a takeaway from the seriousness of the nature that's going on. I like that little bit that just comes in there at that moment. It had me laughing, and like I said, I feel like it was a little break from what's going to happen. It's also like a step like what's going to happen next. So I thought that was a smart thing to put in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Frankie gets enough credit for his comedy. I mean, Malcolm was written exceptionally well, uh, but firsthand, I mean, Frankie is a comedic genius. So much so that I was like, you have to start doing stand up. He was quick to to say no to that one, but it was a nice thing to be able to bring more. There's a little comedy in the script, but just pull as much out of it with Frankie, and we're really making something that's entertaining. So to go from really dark to something that's funny. At one point he sort of grabs her and is like, you dirty hamster, which is like the line that always gets me cracking up. But yeah, he really brings a tremendous amount. And this, I think, is a great way for audiences to see him. It's dark, which they haven't seen from him, and it's the comedy, and he blends them perfectly together.
So you mentioned it was a fast schedule. So how long did shooting actually take, and were there any complications you faced during production at all, if any?
Yeah, it was. On low budget films, sometimes shooting schedules are crazy. I have friends who have filmed something in 8 days, and it's just like, that's not, to do something well, it takes time. And so we had a schedule that was longer, and then it came back that we only had 15 days to shoot the whole thing. So we built all the sets. We worked with this group called Edwards Construction that built these phenomenal sets for us. So then we didn't have to do company moves. And then I was extremely economical about doing storyboarding and pre-production, and we flew through it, and made sure that we were thoroughly prepped, but didn't, rush anything, and didn't leave anything, that might need to be reshot or that we felt, wasn't our best work. We just sort of made sure that people knew ahead of time this is how much time we had, and made a new plan that allowed us to succeed with that given time, because it was really all we had. And I think we were so amped up that we even finished a little early, which was a shock to all of us. We ended up doing the second half or the last day, the second part, we did sort of crew interviews, because we were like, well, I don't know, we were so scared about the schedule that we put everything into it, and none of us slept for 2 weeks, but here we are. And yeah, but that too is a testament to the team, a testament to everybody's commitment, and everybody bringing their A game when they needed to. And even, within that schedule, this is maybe one of the challenging things is we were going through, and we sort of found little things that needed massaging in the script. So for a half day, we actually, stopped production and said, we need to go back and kind of retool this. And I love to collaborate with the actors who, by the time you get on set, know these characters better than anybody. And so we kind of huddled and kind of came up with these new ideas, and then back on our feet and implemented and kept running. You're ultimately kind of creating something that's living and breathing. And so if it's fatigued, it's important to let it have its breath, and then get back to it, because ultimately for audiences and for the final work, it's worth it.
Awesome. So is there anything that you're going to be working on next that you can talk about, whether it's like, it's a new film, a new series? Is there anything that you can talk about that's upcoming?
Yeah. Next I'll be directing a film written by Pierce Gardner, who wrote Dan in the Real World. And it looks like we'll be in production this summer on that film. So we'll make some more thorough announcements, including cast soon, maybe some familiar faces. And yeah, that's what's ahead, and I'm looking forward to jumping into the next film.
Awesome. Well, everyone, Renner's coming out this Friday, and it was mind-blowing. I absolutely love this movie, and those who like Malcolm in the Middle, you're going to want to see this movie, because Frankie Muniz is in a different light with a little bit of his little trademark on it. But here you're going to see a new side of him, but it's going to be one that you're going to appreciate, because I think this is going to be one that he definitely might need to get an award for, hands down. And Robert, thank you so much again for taking the time to talk about the film. It's great talking to you again.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Albert. And yeah, thanks a ton. Take care.
All right, take care.